Who knew this raw shit'd make y'all ungrateful? When I swept the grams off it, it was a deal on the table.
Give him discomfort like a ligament tear do. When I looked in his eyes, it was visibly tearful.
Bobby Fish in the Fisker, muzzle on the baby tech, you can hear the bullets whisper.
Griselda Records, founded by Westside Gunn, Conway the Machine, and Mac Homie, active since 2012. There was a time not too long ago when Griselda felt like the last hope for real rap. In an era smothered by auto-tune, TikTok trends, and the never-ending search for the next viral hit, these three men from Buffalo, New York cut through all the new age noise with the poise of seasoned vets. Westside Gunn, the mastermind and mouthpiece, Conway the Machine, the war scar technician, and Benny the Butcher, the street poet with star potential. Together, they weren't just rappers, they were a movement, a brand, a force. The allure was magnetic. Their grimy beat selection, luxury drug rap narratives, wrestling references, and minimalist cover art created a world that fans could dive into. Cosigns from legends like Jay-Z and Eminem didn't just boost their credibility, they validated the movement. Griselda made it okay to sound like 1995 again, but fresher, more raw, realer, and yet they stalled. Not in the sense they disappeared, they still release music today. They still tour, Benny still has a Rock Nation chain, Conway still raps like he's got something to prove, and Westside still talks like a curator at the Met. But the buzz is gone. The anticipation, the sense that they were about to take over hip-hop in a real lasting way is all gone. Somewhere between 2019's breakout moment and now, Griselda as a group became more brand than brotherhood, more solo than squad, more respected than relevant. What happened? Was it business? Was it inevitable? Did they lose steam because the game moved on, or because they couldn't evolve with it? Maybe it was all of the above. Maybe that was always the plan, grab their piece of the pie and keep it moving. But for a group that once looked like they might bring balance back to mainstream rap, their drop-off from the cultural conversation is hard to ignore. This isn't to say they failed. If anything, Griselda succeeded in ways no one from Buffalo was supposed to. But they also left something on the table, a spot at the top, a cemented place as not just underground legends, but kings of the modern era. This is the story of Griselda, how they rose from the shadows and why their movement never became a dynasty. What happened? Let's talk about it. It's your boy JC Stunted Growth Music. Let's get it, man. Take a minute to like, subscribe, and comment on who I should do next. Griselda Records is a rap group founded in 2012 in Buffalo, New York by Westside Gunn alongside his brother Conway the Machine and cousin Benny the Butcher. At a time when Buffalo had little to no presence in hip-hop, the trio built their name from the ground up through grimy street tales, minimalistic beats, and a relentless stream of mixtapes. Gunn handled the vision and branding, Conway the bar-heavy grit, and Benny the charismatic street lyricism. Their raw sound, influenced by 90s New York rap, began to turn heads. By 2017, they had inked a deal with Eminem's Shady Records, followed by Benny's partnership with Rock Nation. Projects like WWCD and The Plugs I Met made waves in the underground and beyond. By 2019-20, they were seen as the face of a street rap renaissance, poised to bring the gritty East Coast aesthetic back to mainstream relevance until momentum began to slip. Stunt number 1, Oversaturation and lack of evolution. One of Griselda's greatest strengths early on, flooding the market with constant music, eventually became one of their biggest setbacks. At their peak, the crew was releasing so many projects that even die-hard fans struggled to keep up. Westside Gunn alone dropped multiple albums in a year, each packed with features from the same inner circle. While consistency kept them visible, it also made their sound feel repetitive. Raw loops, dusty drums, and coke rap bars started to blur together. As the industry evolved, Griselda didn't. While other artists experimented with new flows, production, and styles, Griselda remained loyal to their formula. For some fans, that was admirable, but for the mainstream audience, and even parts of their base, it became stagnant. You knew exactly what you were going to get, and after a while, that predictability dulled the impact. In an era driven by novelty and surprise, Griselda's refusal to adapt began to cost them attention. Worse, the group didn't use their initial momentum to take any significant creative risk. Their visuals stayed gritty but low budget, and their soundscapes rarely expanded beyond the Alchemist/Derringer axis. While other collectives like Dreamville or TDE experimented with genre blending and broad collaborations, Griselda kept things in-house and insular. This lack of growth limited their ability to scale. They had a devoted cult following but never crossed over into true mainstream dominance. They didn't land massive radio hits, chart-topping albums, or major awards, not because they weren't talented, but because they never pivoted. In an ironic twist, their commitment to quote real rap and artistic purity, while noble, might have boxed them in. And once the initial hype cooled down, there was nothing fresh enough to keep them rising. Stunt number 2, fragmented leadership and internal tension. Griselda's chemistry on wax made it easy to assume they were a tight-knit unit off of it, but behind the scenes, cracks began forming as individual goals pulled the trio in different directions. Westside Gunn was always more than a rapper. He saw himself as an art curator and fashion mogul. Conway, the group's emotional core, wanted respect as a standalone lyricist and began voicing frustrations about how he was being positioned. Benny the Butcher, the most industry-friendly of the three, leaned towards solo stardom and partnerships outside the Griselda umbrella. With no clear long-term leadership structure and no shared vision for what Griselda could become as a label, each member eventually prioritized self over squad. Conway formally left the label in 2022, citing business differences. Benny would sign a solo deal with Def Jam, and Westside began to distance himself from the rapper role entirely, focusing more on curating and executive producing. The fallout wasn't explosive, but it was visible. There were fewer joint records, less brand unity, more subtle shots in interviews, and most importantly, a growing sense that the movement had fractured. When Griselda was at its strongest, they moved as a unit, appearing together, supporting each other's drops, and feeding the narrative of a rising empire. But when that synergy faded, so did the collective hype. It didn't help that there was never a clear next generation being groomed under the label. While Westside tried to push acts like Armani Caesar and Baldy James, none reached the visibility of the core trio. Without a deeper roster or shared mission, Griselda struggled to evolve into something sustainable. In the end, they became three individual artists who used to be in the same crew, not a dynasty with staying power. The magic wasn't gone, but the unity was. Stunt number 3, underground icons but mainstream outsiders. Griselda conquered the underground, but they never cracked the mainstream in a lasting way. That wasn't entirely their fault. Their aesthetic was intentionally grimy, their lyrics drenched in drug talk and violence, and their presentation unapologetically raw. But the same authenticity also made them hard to market beyond their niche. While others found ways to toe the line between street credibility and commercial appeal, Griselda never made that leap. They didn't have breakout singles that crossed radio thresholds. They weren't playlist darlings, and aside from cult admiration and critical acclaim, they never truly dominated award shows, year-end lists, or popular discourse. Their highest charting projects barely cracked the top tiers of the Billboard 200. For a group that had Jay-Z and Eminem support, it's surprising how little they penetrated the broader rap audience after their initial run. Part of that can be attributed to timing. Griselda peaked at a moment when rap was shifting toward melodic trap, drill rap aka Rico rap, emo rap, and viral moments on social media. Their style, based on slow-burning bars and gritty beats, was built for headphones, not algorithm-driven platforms like TikTok or streaming-era trends. And rather than evolve with the changing landscape, they stayed firm in their lane. That choice earned them respect, but also a ceiling. They became rap purists' fans, but never household names. Their merch sold out, but their influence rarely stretched past those already in the know. To the casual fan, Griselda was a moment, then gone. Even their biggest individual moments, like Benny's Def Jam signing or Conway's solo projects, didn't spark crossover traction. It was as if the industry applauded their talent but never quite invested in their long-term presence. The movement faded, not from failure, but from being forever boxed in by the underground label, respected but never fully embraced. All in all, Griselda was more than a rap group. They were a culture reset. In a time when hip-hop leaned toward auto-tuned hooks and digital flash, they brought the genre back to its core: bars, beats, and authenticity. They made it cool to rap again. They gave Buffalo a voice, and for a while they looked poised to lead a renaissance that could challenge the mainstream from the shadows. But as quickly as they rose, the movement began to drift. Oversaturation dulled their impact, internal tension fractured the chemistry, and their refusal to bend, even slightly, with the times left them respected but increasingly irrelevant to wider audiences. They weren't chasing charts, but without evolution or a united front, their ceiling became obvious. Still, Griselda's influence runs deep. Their merch, their sound, their structure all inspired a generation of indie artists who saw another way forward. They proved that success doesn't have to look like what the labels say it does, but they also showed what happens when unity fades and momentum isn't nurtured. Their legacy is secure but incomplete. Griselda gave us a powerful chapter in modern rap history, but not the era they could have owned. Salute, much respect, but for these reasons, their growth was stunted. It's your boy JC, Stunted Growth Music, and I'm out.